This channel supports St. Jude's Research Hospital for Children and is a part of their Play Live charity drive. For more information on how to join as well as how to donate, please head to the description and click the link at the top of it. Remember, any and all support is appreciated, so feel free to give and support in any way you can. Thank you for your participation. What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, back with some more practical PC building, and I'm going to finally get to that sexy piece of hardware that a lot of people like to talk about, to go on about, brag about, you know, argue about when it comes to PCs, and that's the graphics card. It's something that, personally, in my opinion, is one of the least important components, which is why this video has come almost at the end of this series. And, you know, when I say it's one of the least important components to me, don't make no mistake, I do understand the importance of graphics cards, especially when it comes to PC gaming. I do not think that it's a useless piece of hardware in any way or anything like that. I just feel like the importance on the type that you get sometimes is a little overhyped to me, especially since most things out there, especially games, won't necessarily need to utilize everything that those cards offer. Like, I remember when the 900 series dropped and everybody was like, yeah, I need to get that, this is a great, and I'm just like, don't really need that. I mean, and honestly, as it stands now, like, especially in the NVIDIA case, the 700 series, it's fine, in my opinion, but we'll go into detail a little more later. Just really quickly, the reason I saved this is because, like I said in the previous video, I want to make sure nowadays that you have a power supply that is able to run all of your hardware, including your graphics cards, because now a lot of graphics cards, they have connectors to plug into the power supply so that you can power it, and that it can run efficiently. I have one of the last cards that did not require that, which is this right here. This is Asus GeForce GTX 650. Pretty good card, performs very well. Once I finished doing my build, I did a benchmark through 3D Mark, and good numbers, decent. It settled into the middle of the pack, not necessarily, well, the high middle, not the low middle. Not necessarily at the top, not necessarily in the middle, but just a little above the middle. It's just fine, especially since my whole purpose for this PC build wasn't for gaming anyway. But when I do play games, like when I do play stuff like StarCraft, which I love, I've been playing that a lot lately, The Witcher 2, anything else, it runs pretty well, without, you know, any hiccups, any stuttering. I don't really get frame drops, you know, but right now I'm not running anything too intensive. Unfortunately, we're getting back to that point now where games are starting to get more reliant on certain components, and that one of them is the graphics card. I remember recently the whole hubbub about, at least I know for me it's a hubbub, the whole requirements for The Witcher 3 requiring at least, I believe, a 660 and recommending that you have at least the 780. I'm kind of salty about that, because I don't necessarily want to run out and buy another graphics card just to run a game, and that's one of the things that's always killed me, but I'll go into that in a separate video in this series. But as far as graphics cards are concerned, of course, a lot of people love NVIDIA, but AMD Radeons are, the Radeons are really good. The 280, 290, I think there's a is there a 290? Let me make sure that I say, I know there's a 280, which is a good card to get. Let's see, just to make sure. Yeah, the 290s are good too. There are 290s. Make sure I ain't talking out my ass here. But yeah, those are good. A little costly for the. It's the same thing with the 700 series. they can sometimes get a little costly. The 280s are more affordable. They're pretty good. As far as cost between the two, they kind of run, at least in my mind, they kind of run parallel. Of course, AMD is going to be somewhat cheaper. Sometimes you can get a better performance out of an AMD. That's another thing too. Graphic cards are so iffy nowadays because if you're getting it for gaming, companies will optimize towards a certain brand. Sometimes it'll be Intel, sometimes it'll be Radeon. So that's iffy, but everything will run no matter what. Just that it'll run a little better if you got that brand. Intel still seems to be getting the lion's shares of those deals where you notice like a lot of games you turn on and they'll have the NVIDIA logo up on it when it starts up and things like that. So they still kind of are leaning towards being the favorites for developers. But the thing about graphics cards to me, and why this is why I say like they're becoming less important, is that a lot of things will not use. Again, I said this before, I'll say it again. A lot of things will not necessarily utilize all of the features of those high-end things. Sure, you kind of future-proof yourself by getting a 980 because that'll run like games probably until the 2020s. But at the same token, do you need to spend that much money for that card? And that's where I always had issue in with graphics card, is that if my 650 runs everything, right? Just about everything, with the exception of I think 2, maybe 3 games that have released recently. Other than that, I have no problem. I could like meet and beat every requirement for every game that's issued on PC right now. That being said, why do I need to upgrade? That's why I didn't buy a new graphics card when I made this build. I'd already had this card for about a year and a half. Still running fine, perfectly. Runs better now that it's in the new build. There was no need for me to spend a couple of $100s. Now you can do like I normally do, is wait until they start to cycle towards the next gen or the gen above the next and get a card for cheap. I only paid $130 for this. Probably would have paid $300-400 when it first came out. So I saved money on that. Again, like I said, since things don't necessarily need the highest end that there is, you can go low. You can go low now and get a 700 series for under $200. Save yourself some money, not spend all that money, because a lot of games are now just recommending the 700 series. There's no game out there that recommends that you have a 900 or anything above a 780. So, you know, and if you have the right type of build, that's perfectly fine. You know, I have an i7. I'm good there. I have 8 gigs of memory. I'll probably expand to 16 soon. I'm good there. You know what I mean? I have other things to help along the process that if the 7, you know, to make the 780 look better than it is. You don't necessarily need to go out and just, you know, buy that high-end card. And that's the thing I want to stress the most. You do not need to spend the most money on a card. A lot of people feel like unless I buy that $500 card, I'm not up to par. No, that is far from true. It's one of those misnomers that I just wish would die. It's kind of more of a, like I said in the beginning, the processor, the graphics card now is more of a sexy buy type of thing rather than a necessity. It's only necessary if you're going to be a hardcore gamer, and even then there's a certain level of necessity within that. You don't need to go all out to the max and spend like shit ton of money. I don't understand why people feel like it's just been a shit ton. And I think I might have misspoke about the 780s are, yeah, I saw one. I have to remember where I saw it, but yeah, no, definitely. You can cut. That's the area. That's why I left this, because it's the area that you could, you can cut corners in the graphics card. You don't need to go out. And it's kind of funny too, because I've noticed more and more now, going back to something I always go back into my videos, the motherboard. Notice now that a lot of onboard motherboard graphics inputs are really, really good. Like I have the MSI Z97 PC Mate. It says on the box that its onboard port supports 4K. That's on an onboard, connection. Reason it's able to do that is because now a lot of processors have GPU accelerating components to them. Like the AMDs are like by far really good for that, because a lot of them, the multiple core ones, you'll see like if it has 6 cores, it's like 2 CPUs and 4 GPUs on the processor itself. Intel has the I forget exactly what it's called, the technology that they have for their graphics, but it has something on the processor that will allow you to run your onboard graphics for HDMI. Mind you, I have an HDMI port that supports 4K video. I have an i7 3.6 gigahertz Intel processor. I can actually, without a graphics card, run 4K. I don't need the graphics card. The graphics card comes into play for mostly hardcore gaming. If you're someone who's into video editing and things like that, you'll want the graphics card to process images and things better, to render stuff, help you in your performance of rendering video and all of that stuff like that. But I personally don't think that it's a huge necessity. It's an important component, but it's not a huge necessity. I will always say that. I always think that graphics cards are have become such an overrated component beyond what they're for. That's just me. I mean, I have a graphics card because I will play games. I need it for certain games, but I don't need the huge high-end graphics card. As far as suggestions, I'm an NVIDIA guy, but again, I have nothing against Radeons. AMD makes some great things. Hell, if you own a PS4 or Xbox One, you're a fan of AMD because your whole architecture is AMD based, and that's what makes those systems go the way they go. So can't dismiss AMD at all if you own one of those consoles. But yeah, definitely look into like the Radeon 280s. Look into the NVIDIA GTX 700 series for good, decent cards. Asus, again, I have an Asus. Love that company. Make great components. They have great cards. What's the name of the company? I always forget the exact letters. I think it's EVGA. I've had a lot of graphics cards from EVGA that work really well, so check them out as well. But that's pretty much it. Final words I have to say on this is that don't tax yourself. Don't go crazy over a graphics card. Find out exactly what you want to do. If you want to do gaming, exactly where things are now as far as specs. Look up game specs. There's a site, I believe it's called Can It Run It, that you can look up. Google Can It Run It and go through a couple of games and look at their specs and see what it is, and you'll get a comfortable idea of where games are requiring, what games are requiring for you to have. That way you can definitely get the right build that's high enough to give you some headroom, but not too costly. I won't stress this enough. You do not need to overspend on the graphics card. It's really not that necessary, people. It really isn't. But anyway, as always, hit me up. Let me know what you think. If you have questions, please ask. Suggestions, please let me know. Criticism, keep it, keep the criticism constructive. We don't want any bullshit, no drama. I'm just doing this, giving you guys my opinions, giving you some thought for those of you who may not, have an idea what you want to try to do, but just need, maybe an opinion to help further you along. But anyway, I'm out of here. I'll holler at you later. It's your boy Black Makers. Deuces.